Mo had always been funnier than my husband. He was louder, quicker, and willing to turn any quiet moment into a story people repeated for years. With him, I never felt like the responsible one dragging a careful man toward a life he was afraid to touch. So when Mo shoved Jonah off the pier and I laughed, I did not think I was cheering for my husband's fear. I thought Mo had delivered the perfect ending to a joke we had been building all weekend. That push was the peak of every stupid ha moment Mo and I had ever shared. Then Jonah walked up behind us, wet and calm, and the laughter died so fast I could hear water falling from his shirt. What my husband did after that turned one joke into the last true thing anyone would remember about me. My name is Orla Keane. I was 33, and I sold medical imaging equipment to hospital groups along the coast. My work depended on reading rooms. If a surgeon joked, I knew when to laugh. If an administrator went quiet, I knew which price to move away from. People did not sign because a machine had the best parts. They signed because I made the decision feel easy. I treated laughter the same way. If people laughed with me, I believed the room had agreed. Jonah and I had been together 8 years and married 5. He was 35 and worked as a municipal building inspector. He could walk through a cracked school hallway and tell whether the problem was paint, water, or something holding too much weight. He was 6'3", broad through the shoulders, and calm in a way strangers often mistook for confidence. I knew the difference. When Jonah was 9, 2 older cousins pushed him from a lake dock. They thought he was pretending when he called for help. He went under twice before his uncle reached him. After that, he avoided deep water. He could stand in a shallow pool, but he never learned to float or move more than a few feet. Even putting his face under made his breath turn short. He told me during our first vacation together. We had booked a snorkeling trip, and he claimed his stomach hurt until I asked why he had not eaten all morning. He sat on the edge of the hotel bed and explained the dock, his cousins, and the sound he still heard when water closed over his ears. I held his hand. I told him he never had to explain it again. That promise was real when I made it. So was the man I married. During our first winter in the apartment, a storm took the power out for 14 hours. Jonah built a blanket wall around the sofa, heated soup on a camping stove by the open balcony door, and stayed awake because I hated the dark. We ate from mugs and listened to rain strike the glass. He made a cold apartment feel protected. But safety can become a small room if you stay inside it too long. Jonah skipped boat trips. He refused hotel pools. He would drive 3 hours around a ferry route without asking whether I minded. When friends rented a lake house, he found work he could not move. If I tried to discuss it, he took one slow breath, held it for a count I could see in his face, and released it before answering. That breath usually meant the conversation was over. My father had spent most of my childhood making fear sound practical. He would not fly, so my mother called road trips romantic. He hated crowds, so she said home was more comfortable. By the time I was 16, every place she wanted to see had become something they might do next year. I promised myself I would never spend my life making another person's fear look like a shared choice. That was the grievance I carried into my marriage. It was true. I used its truth to excuse things that were not. 6 months before the pier, Jonah began leaving home before 6 on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. He carried a dark blue duffel bag that had spent years folded in our hall closet. He said he had joined a gym near one of his inspection sites. I teased him about becoming a fitness man at 35. He smiled, took that slow breath, and said he wanted to fix something he had put off. The answer sounded so much like Jonah that I stopped listening. He was always fixing something. A loose rail. A late permit. A problem nobody else had noticed. The blue bag became part of the hallway. Some mornings its zipper was damp. I assumed he showered at the gym. Once, when I leaned in to kiss him before work, I smelled chlorine beneath his soap. He had spent that week inspecting a public recreation center, so even that fit the version I already believed. Jonah was steady. Jonah was private. Jonah could not swim. Of course, the bag meant nothing. Everyone in our group had known Mo Alvarez before they knew Jonah. Mo and I dated for almost 2 years in our early 20s. He could talk a bartender into reopening a kitchen and turn a missed train into the best night of a trip. He was also late to my graduation dinner, forgot my birthday once, and borrowed money he took 4 months to return. I did not leave Mo because the fun ended. I left because fun was the only thing he could keep alive. Our friends remained tangled together afterward. Nina Park had been my roommate. Theo Brooks had played football with Mo in school. Birthdays became weddings, weddings became housewarmings, and nobody wanted to divide a group that had already survived 3 breakups. When I started dating Jonah, Mo shook his hand and called him the adult Allah had finally ordered. Jonah laughed then. It was easier at the beginning. Over the years, Mo learned how far he could lean into our marriage without being corrected. He put an arm around my shoulders in photographs. He told stories about trips we had taken before Jonah. He remembered what I drank and announced it before my husband could order. Each act was small enough to defend. If Jonah looked bothered, I told him Mo behaved that way with everyone. If Mo pushed harder, I laughed, because refusing to laugh would make the moment serious. The coastal weekend began as Nina's idea. Her cousin owned a weathered house beside a quiet inlet, with 5 bedrooms and a long private pier. Nina sent photographs of white railings, blue water, and a fire pit built from old stone. I wanted the trip before I finished reading the message. Jonah stood behind me while I scrolled. When he saw the pier, his hand settled on my shoulder and then lifted away. He asked who was going. I named Nina and Theo first. When I said Mo, Jonah took the slow breath. I asked whether he planned to invent an inspection that weekend too. He said no. Then he asked me not to tell anyone about the swimming. He knew there would be jokes near the water, and he did not want his childhood turned into group material. He did not make a speech. He did not accuse me of anything. He asked once. I promised. 4 nights later, Mo joined Nina and me at a bar after work. Jonah had planned to come, but a damaged stairwell kept him late. Mo slid into the empty seat beside me and said my husband had chosen concrete over company again. Nina laughed. I told Mo that Jonah chose anything with rules over a room where he might have to be interesting. Mo touched the back of my chair and leaned close enough for Nina to look away. He said, "You downgraded." That should have ended the evening. I should have moved his hand and told him to respect the man I had married. Instead, I smiled into my glass. Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice too. Mo's face changed for half a second. Not love. Victory. I knew the difference and accepted it anyway. I told him Jonah was safe while he had always been exciting. I said that if we met now, things might be different. I said I sometimes missed who I had been with him. Nina stopped smiling. She asked whether I meant any of that. I said adults were allowed to admit a marriage had weak places. That was how I spoke when I wanted a cruel sentence to sound mature. Mo asked what Jonah was afraid of besides having fun. There was still a clean exit. I could have changed the subject. I could have remembered Jonah on the hotel bed, telling me about the lake in a voice he had not used with anyone else. I looked at Nina. She knew something private was coming and should have stopped me. That was the excuse I gave myself later. At the table, she only said my name once. I told Mo my 6'3" husband could not swim. He laughed so loudly that 2 people at the next table turned. Then he asked whether Jonah needed inflatable sleeves in a hotel pool. I laughed too. Nina said it was not funny if Jonah had asked me to keep it private. Her voice was quiet, which let me treat the objection as nervousness instead of judgment. I told her Jonah was embarrassed because he made the fear bigger than it was. Maybe a few jokes would force him to deal with it. Mo raised his glass. He said the beach weekend had just become interesting. When I got home, Jonah was sitting at the dining table with inspection photographs open on his laptop. The blue duffel rested beside his chair. A dark, wet line marked the fabric near the zipper. He smelled faintly of chlorine again. I asked whether the recreation center still had problems. He looked at the bag, then at me. He said the work was moving forward. That was not exactly an answer, but Jonah often spoke around things. I had learned to stop pulling when he made himself hard to reach. He asked why Mo had posted a photograph with his arm around me. I said Mo always stood close in pictures. Jonah named the last 3 times Mo had touched me, compared himself to Jonah, or brought up our old relationship. The details were accurate. His voice was not angry. That made me hear the words as a report instead of pain. I told him jealousy was unattractive and trust was a choice. He took the slow breath. His shoulders lowered as he released it. Then he said trust was also what a person did with information that could hurt someone. For 1 second, I wondered whether Nina had warned him. I asked what he meant. He closed the laptop and said he hoped I remembered my promise about the trip. I kissed the top of his head and told him to stop expecting betrayal everywhere. The next morning, while Jonah was in the shower, Mo sent me a picture of orange children's water wings. The message under it asked what size the big guy wore. I covered my mouth so Jonah would not hear me laugh. The secret stopped being private at Theo's cookout 2 weeks later. 8 of us stood around his backyard while smoke from the grill moved beneath the trees. Jonah arrived late from work, still wearing his city badge. The blue duffel sat in the back of his car because he had gone to the gym that morning. Mo noticed it before Jonah reached the gate. He asked whether the bag contained emergency flotation equipment. Nina stared at her plate. Theo looked between us and asked what Mo was talking about. I could have protected Jonah then. The secret had reached only 3 people. I could have told Mo to shut up and let the moment die. Instead, I wanted the whole group to understand why I found my husband difficult. If they laughed, my frustration would become reasonable. I put one hand against Jonah's shoulder and said, "You're 6'3" and scared of a swimming pool." The first laugh came from Mo. 2 others followed because they did not know whether the sentence was private or permitted. Nina did not join them. Theo set down the grill tongs. Jonah looked at me, not Mo. He asked whether I had told them after he specifically asked me not to. There was sadness in his face. Simple sadness. No trap. No strategy. I saw it and decided it was another form of pressure. I told him he was acting as though I had exposed a crime. I said everyone had fears, and adults did not make their wives guard them like state secrets. Mo stepped beside me. He said he could teach Jonah in 1 afternoon if Jonah was willing to stop being dramatic. Theo told him to leave it alone. Mo lifted both hands and said it was a joke. Jonah took 1 slow breath. He held it. Released it. Then he asked how many people knew. That reaction annoyed me more than anger would have. He did not defend himself. He did not challenge Mo. He counted the damage as if I were another cracked wall on his list. I said nobody cared enough to count. Mo walked to Jonah's car before anyone stopped him. The rear window was open. He reached inside, pulled out the blue duffel, and held it above his head. He asked whether he should check for a rubber duck. The bag was heavier than he expected. It swung down and struck his leg. A clean chemical smell came from the damp cloth. Jonah crossed the yard and took it from him without a word. His grip was firm. He placed the bag in the front seat and locked the car. I read his silence as surrender. Mo did too. Nina came to me near the kitchen door. She said Jonah had trusted me, and I had made that trust the price of admission to a joke. I told her not to become moral now. She had been at the bar. She had laughed before she decided the room was unsafe. Her face went still. She said that was true. Then she moved to the other side of the yard. The cookout recovered, but not fully. Theo stopped feeding Mo easy lines. 2 friends left before dessert. Jonah stayed another 20 minutes, thanked Theo, and drove home without asking whether I wanted to come. Mo offered me a ride. In the car, he said Jonah's silence proved I could do anything and still find him waiting at home. I said that was the problem with safe men. They confused staying with strength. Mo placed his hand over mine at a red light. I did not move it. At home, Jonah sat on the edge of our bed with the blue bag at his feet. He asked whether there was still a part of our marriage that belonged only to us. I told him privacy could not become a cage around every conversation. He said he was not talking about every conversation. He was talking about a 9-year-old boy under dark water and the woman who had promised not to hand that boy to a room full of people. The sentence landed. I looked at the damp zipper and almost admitted that I had enjoyed Mo knowing something Jonah did not want him to know. Then I remembered the missed ferries, the lake houses, and the years of adjusting plans. I told myself Jonah was using one childhood story to avoid the adult life in front of him. I said the weekend at the coast would be good for us. He looked down at the bag and took the slow breath. I thought he was giving in. My mother was the first person close to me who refused my version of the story. I called her the following Sunday and described the cookout as though Jonah had ruined it by being sensitive. I expected her to understand. She had spent years adjusting life around my father's fear. Instead, she asked whether I remembered how angry I became when children at school called my father a coward for missing a class trip. I said that was different. She asked how. I had answers, but none sounded clean. My father had made choices for our whole family. Jonah was only avoiding water. My father never tried to change. Jonah had not tried either, as far as I knew. I finally said marriage should not require me to shrink. My mother said that might be true, but humiliation had never made a frightened person larger. I ended the call soon after. That evening, I tried a softer tactic with Jonah. I ordered an adult life vest in his size and set it on the sofa with a bright bow. I told him I would stop every joke if he agreed to wear it on the pier. In my mind, this was compromise. I would protect him. He would stop controlling the trip. He removed the bow and folded it once. Then he said protection offered as a public costume was still humiliation. I accused him of rejecting every solution that did not let him remain wounded. That part was unfair, but it grew from something true. Jonah could disappear into silence for days and call it calm. He solved feelings alone, then acted surprised when I no longer knew where he was. He said I was right that he withdrew. He said he should have spoken sooner when my jokes began to feel like contempt. For a moment, the conversation opened. He was not denying his flaw. He was standing in front of it. Then he said my loneliness did not explain why I gave Mo a private weapon. I closed the opening. I told him Mo only had power because Jonah kept acting ashamed. 2 days before the trip, I met Jonah outside a cafe near the county offices. A woman in a grey running jacket was speaking to him beside the entrance. She was around 40, with dark hair tied close to her neck. When I approached, she smiled at Jonah and said his breathing had been much better on Saturday. She reminded him about Tuesday before work. Jonah introduced her as Marisol Vega. He did not explain more. I assumed she was a physical trainer helping with his shoulder. Jonah had complained about stiffness after crawling beneath an old-school stage, and the blue bag made sense with a gym. Marisol looked at me as if she knew my name already. She said Jonah had worked harder than anyone expected. I told her he was good at private projects. The edge in my voice made Jonah take the slow breath. Marisol's eyes moved to his face, then back to mine. She wished us a safe weekend and left. That night, I looked inside the blue bag while searching for a charger Jonah often carried. There was a rolled towel, rubber sandals, a small bottle of chlorine shampoo, and a laminated card printed with lane numbers and morning times. The answer stood close enough to touch. I imagined Jonah in a pool before sunrise. The picture would not settle. In every version I knew, he stayed near the steps and found a reason to leave. Mo's message arrived before I could ask. He had sent a photograph of the rental pier with a red circle drawn around the far edge. Under it, he wrote that the big guy could remain on land while the adults had fun. I put the card back in the bag. If Jonah had joined a gym with a pool, I decided he used the sauna. If Marisol taught water classes, perhaps she was helping him breathe near the shallow end. Real swimming was too large, a change for a man who still refused to discuss the weekend. That explanation let the familiar Jonah remain in place. Nina stopped answering my messages about room assignments. Theo replied only once and said he was coming because somebody needed to keep Mo from turning the trip into a contest. I showed Jonah the message and said his mood had infected everyone. He folded the life vest, placed it in the hall closet, and set the blue bag beside the door. He said he would come to the coast. He also said that if Mo used the secret again, he expected me to stop him in front of the same people who heard it. That was his final request. I told him he would not need defending if he stopped behaving like a victim. Jonah went quiet. One slow breath. Then another. I believed the argument was over because he had no answer left. The house stood beside a calm inlet south of the open beach. Weathered boards ran from the back lawn to a long pier with ladders on both sides. The water was deep near the end, dark beneath the shadow of the planks, and smooth enough to reflect the white posts. Jonah walked the full length of the pier within 10 minutes of our arrival. He pressed one foot against a loose board, checked the rail, and looked down at the ladder on the far side. I told Nina an inspector could not take a vacation from being boring. She did not laugh. Mo arrived an hour later with 2 coolers and a portable speaker. He hugged me before setting anything down. His hand stayed at my waist while Jonah carried bags through the kitchen. Theo saw it. He took 1 cooler from Mo and told him the weekend would go better if he remembered Orla was married. Mo said Jonah could speak for himself. I answered before my husband could. I said Jonah trusted me. Jonah stood in the doorway with the blue duffel over one shoulder. Water darkened one corner of the bag from his morning workout. He took the slow breath and carried it upstairs. That first evening remained polite because everyone worked at it. We cooked outside. Nina kept her phone raised for short videos of the water and the sunset. Theo changed the subject whenever Mo mentioned old trips. Jonah sat beside me, but the space between our chairs stayed open. On Saturday morning, Mo started before breakfast was finished. He asked Jonah whether he had slept in the life vest. I told him the vest was at home because Jonah had rejected my generous compromise. Theo said enough. Mo grinned. Relax. It's a joke. The same sentence had protected him for years. It protected me too. By late afternoon, all 5 of us were on the pier. Nina was recording the orange light across the inlet. Theo stood near the rescue ring fixed to a post. Mo leaned against the rail with a drink in one hand. Jonah walked toward the far end, where the shadow of the pier made the water look almost black. Mo called after him. Careful, big guy. Wouldn't want you falling in. I laughed. Jonah stopped. His phone and wallet were already on a bench near the middle of the pier. I had seen him place them there and assumed he was afraid of dropping them. Theo told Mo to cut it out. Mo said Jonah needed to learn how to take a joke before he lost his wife to someone who could have fun. Jonah turned to me. He did not ask Mo for anything. He asked whether I was going to stop this now. The pier went quiet except for the speaker near the house. This was the moment he had requested. Same people. Same public correction. I knew exactly what he wanted. I also knew Mo was watching. I told Jonah, you turn every fear into a wall and expect me to live behind it. He did not deny it. That was the one thing I said that evening that was completely true. Jonah's silence had built walls. His refusal to share unfinished pain had left me outside parts of my own marriage. He said he had never asked me to live behind his fear. He had asked me not to give its key to Mo. Then he offered one last clean choice. He said we could leave together, speak honestly at home, and find a way to handle both his withdrawal and my anger without an audience. Mo made a soft chicken sound behind me. I looked at my husband and saw every cancelled plan, every careful breath, every room where I had carried the energy while he watched. I said I was done letting his shame control everyone. Jonah nodded once. He took a slow breath, held it, released it. Then he turned toward the water. I read the nod as surrender. I read the breath as fear. I read his back as proof that he would always walk away before anyone could demand courage. Mo moved before Theo could reach him. He set down his drink, crossed 2 boards, and put both hands between Jonah's shoulders. It was not a light tap. It was not an accident. He shoved. Jonah's body went over the edge. His arms opened once. His face turned toward us with an expression I had never seen, and then the dark water closed over his head. For 1 second, nobody moved. I laughed. The sound came out sharp and bright. "Oh my God, his face!" Mo bent forward, laughing with me. Maybe he'll finally learn. Nina's phone lowered but did not stop recording. Theo shouted, WHATTHELLHECAN swim. The joke lost its shape. 5 seconds passed. The surface moved beneath the pier, but Jonah did not appear. Theo grabbed the rescue ring from its hook. 10 seconds. Nina called Jonah's name. Her voice carried across the inlet. I went to the rail, but I did not reach for the ladder or the ring. Part of me still expected Jonah to rise beside the pier and punish us with that wounded silence. 15 seconds. Theo kicked off one shoe. He told Nina to call emergency services if Jonah did not surface before he reached the water. Mo stopped laughing. He leaned over the edge and looked beneath the boards. 20 seconds, I said. He's probably just being dramatic. Nina turned on me. Your husband might be drowning. What is wrong with you? The words should have opened something. Instead, I heard accusation. I decided Jonah had gone under the pier to make the whole group panic and make me look cruel. He wanted an audience now. Fine. I was not giving him the reaction. He was not drowning. He was performing. Looking for me? The voice came from behind us. Mo turned first. Theo still held the rescue ring. Nina's phone swung toward the house. Jonah stood at the start of the pier, soaked from his hair to his shoes. Water ran from his sleeves and tapped against the boards. His breathing was even. One slow breath. This time I saw what it was. Control. He had gone beneath the pier, crossed under the central beams, and climbed the ladder on the far side. The house had hidden him when he came up the lawn. I asked how he had done it. Jonah looked at me. I've been taking swimming lessons for 6 months. The blue bag, the wet zipper, chlorine beneath his soap. Marisol saying his breathing had improved. The lane card I had held in my own hand. His phone and wallet placed safely on the bench before he went near the edge. Nothing new entered the story. The old facts simply stopped obeying me. Why didn't you tell me? His mouth tightened, but his voice stayed level. Because every time I tried to fix something I was insecure about, you made it another joke. Mo recovered before I did. Men like him survive by reaching the next laugh first. He spread his hands. See? No harm done. Jonah looked at him. You're right. Mo smiled. Jonah walked forward until they stood an arm's length apart. Swimming's easy, remember? Then he pushed him. Mo hit the water sideways with a shout. He surfaced at once, coughing and swearing. I screamed, "Are you insane?" Theo lowered the rescue ring. He stared at me instead of Jonah. Wait, why was it funny 30 seconds ago? I had no answer that did not condemn me. Mo reached for the ladder. I rushed to the edge and leaned down to grab his hand. His wet fingers closed around my wrist. He pulled harder than I expected. My foot slid on the boards, and I went over beside him. The water was cold enough to empty my lungs. I kicked upward and surfaced within seconds. Mo shouted that Jonah had attacked him. I shouted for someone to help us. Jonah stood above us, water still dripping from his clothes. Relax. You both know how to swim. Theo threw down the rescue ring anyway. Nina pointed us toward the near ladder. Jonah had scared us, and he had put his hands on Mo. He was not a saint standing on that pier, but nobody there confused his act with the first push. Mo had believed Jonah helpless. I had given him the reason. Back at the house, Nina connected her phone to the television. The video began with the sunset. It caught Mo's warning, Jonah's question, and my refusal. It showed both of Mo's hands striking Jonah's back. Then it held on my face. My laugh sounded worse through the television speakers. Clearer. It continued after Theo shouted that Jonah could not swim. The recording showed me standing with empty hands while Theo took down the rescue ring. I told Nina to turn it off. She did, but she did not delete it. Mo said the video made the angle look harder than the push had been. Theo told him to pack. Nina asked him to leave her cousin's house before dark. I waited for someone to say Jonah also pushed Mo. Nobody excused that. Theo told Jonah it had been wrong. Jonah agreed. Then Theo said one act had been retaliation against a swimmer, while the other had been an attack on a man Mo believed could die. The room accepted the difference. I tried to explain that I knew Jonah would find the ladder. Nina asked how I could know that when I did not know he had taken lessons. My explanation stopped there. We drove home the next morning. Jonah put the blue bag in the trunk and gave me the passenger seat, but he spoke only about fuel and traffic. He did not argue. He did not demand an apology. His calm felt so ordinary that I decided the worst had passed. By Tuesday, Nina had sent the full video to everyone who had attended the cookout and the trip. She wrote one sentence saying nobody should hear a shortened version from Mo or me. Theo left our group chat. 3 others created a new one without us. My mother watched the recording and did not return my call that night. Mo called me on Wednesday. For a few minutes, I believed the disaster had at least proved what had always existed between us. I asked whether he wanted to meet. He said, "I never said I wanted you back. I was just messing with him." Then he blamed me for telling him the secret as if information had pushed his hands. He blocked my number before dinner. On Thursday, a courier delivered Jonah's divorce petition. The next step was a meeting to separate our accounts and arrange the apartment. I called the filing one dramatic answer to one stupid weekend. Jonah did not debate me. He stayed with his brother while I remained in our apartment for the month. Our shared cards stopped working except for rent and utilities. Nina answered one message about returning the house keys, then nothing else. At work, nobody knew why I spent lunch alone, but every mutual friend did. 8 days after the pier, Jonah came for the rest of his clothes. He moved quietly through the bedroom while I followed him from room to room. 2 shirts, 4 pairs of shoes, 1 box of inspection files. I counted because numbers were easier than the space opening in each drawer. The dark blue duffel waited beside the front door. I told him we had survived 8 years and should not let Mo destroy them in 20 seconds. I said he had pushed someone too. I said he had hidden the lessons, hidden his anger, and set me up to look like the only cruel person in the marriage. Jonah listened. That was his flaw to the end. He could hold silence longer than anyone and make another person fill it. He lifted the blue bag onto his shoulder. I asked, "You're ending our marriage over one stupid joke?" "I'm not divorcing you because he pushed me into the water. I'm divorcing you because you thought I was drowning." And you laughed.